Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Wandering Wild. It's me, Ashley. I'm so happy to have you here. If you like this episode, please give me a follow or share. It really makes a world of difference to me, so I would really appreciate it. I had an experience this week where I was just kind of having this hard week. I was feeling stressed out and I was having this really doomish day. I kind of just felt like I was doomed. I was like, I don't know what to do from here. Like nothing is quite working out the way I want it to. I decided to go back and listen to my old podcast episodes. I walked all morning. I went to Manly Beach and I had job hunted, and then I went to North Sydney, and as I was walking, I decided to listen to my old episodes. So I started from the beginning and then went on. When I listened to the second episode that I ever made, it completely flipped my mood and flipped my perspective. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it because it totally calmed me down. And I know it was myself talking, but I was kind of like, you know what? This girl has a point. This girl knows what she's talking about. And it made me feel so much better. And I was talking about how it's so normal to have hard days and how we need to give ourselves patience and support ourselves through these hard days because we tend to beat ourselves up, or at least I do all the time. I tell myself I'm not trying hard enough, that I'm not doing good enough of a job. And in this episode, I'm talking about how if a friend were to come to us with a problem, we're not going to say those things to our friend. We're going to be there and we're going to support them through it. And so if we can give that to a friend, then we can give that to ourselves. And I talked about how we should all be giving that to ourselves, the patience and the love and the understanding, because we are living in this world and our lives are always going to be full of highs and always are going to be full of lows. And it's important that we support ourselves all the way through that. And if you're having a hard week, if you're having a hard day, if you sometimes you feel like things are falling apart, it's not a reflection of you necessarily, because you're always going to have bad days. Every life is going to have their bad days, and it's just the way it works, and it's normal, and it's okay. It was cool to listen back on that episode and to be able to hear my past self, and to also feel like I was gaining wisdom from my past self, because I think as we move on in life, we kind of just get wiser and wiser and wiser, but that version of me had a piece of wisdom that I felt like I had lost touch with in the present moment. It was so cool to be able to listen to that episode and to have that experience, and then also to listen to other episodes that I had in the past. And it was really interesting to see what themes have evolved and changed and what themes have always stuck around. One of the themes I noticed that stays pretty consistent throughout most of my episodes, or maybe not in most of my episodes, but I definitely saw it pop up several times throughout the episodes since I've started the podcast. And that is the theme of knowing yourself without trends. I feel like so often we look outwards to try and understand ourselves and what's going on inwards. Travel helps with this a lot because, like I've talked about in previous episodes, it helps you not fall into the trends of the people around you and of your hometown, to kind of remove yourself out of your comfort zone, out of familiarity, and get to know yourself that way. But it can be so hard in this day and age because of social media and because of wellness trends and your different identities and your different eras and all these things that you see. You could be scrolling through Instagram Reels and you could have one person tell you that the way to peace and happiness is to ignore all outside perspective, to only listen to yourself, and if anyone else tells you what to do, then don't listen to them. You could be scrolling through again. You're scrolling, and then the next person says to you the way to achieve the same thing is to listen to the people who have the things that you want to have, or people who have lived the experiences you want to have. And, maybe neither thing is true. Maybe there's a balance, but they're so contradictory. And then you could be scrolling through and there's another person who tells you that the key to peace and happiness is to drink hot water with lemon in the morning. So there's just so much content that our brain is having to process, and there's so much external information. And on top of that, then we have all of these trends and fads that are going on, and it can be really overwhelming. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I just can't process it all. It feels like too much, and it feels really overwhelming. And I think that because of these things, these access we have to this extensive amount of information, it can be really hard to get to know who you are without all of that. And I feel like it can make it harder to get to know yourself in general. So, that being said, how do we come to a place where we can really get to know ourselves? When I travel, I tend to be on social media less, and I tend to be more in the present moment. So I think for me, traveling has been the best way to get to know myself. I feel like I've gotten to know myself away from home. I've gotten to know myself in difficult situations. I've gotten to know myself around different kinds of people, and I've got to know myself away from trends. But I think really the key thing here is taking the time to put effort in to getting to know yourself, because for me, that's travel. For me, when I travel, I spend a lot of time alone with myself. I spend a lot of time journaling, and I spend time trying new things. I spend time meditating. I spend time in my hobbies. It has been so much easier for me to do all of that through travel. But for you, maybe it's not travel. I would highly recommend that you try it, because it might be. But I think even away from travel, just giving yourself time to be with yourself, taking yourself on dates, taking time to sit quietly and observe your thoughts, taking time to try new things and to really tune in to what you like to do, taking time to journal and to take a look at your thoughts, to write your thoughts down and to see it on paper. Maybe you start recording a podcast like I'm doing, or you send voice notes to your friends, and you can kind of see your thought process and see the way that your thoughts are laid out in your head. Maybe you go on a long walk and you leave your phone at home, or you go for a swim in the ocean alone. We spend so much time around other people and so much time in our screens being influenced by other people. And I don't think that we spend enough time alone with ourselves and with our thoughts. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do right now. Because I have seen this firsthand. I have seen me, Ashley, when I'm trying to fit in. And I have seen me, Ashley, when I'm taking the time to know myself and to be myself, as opposed to being what somebody else wants me to be, or what I think somebody else wants me to be, what I think I should be, where I think I should be fitting in. I've had several phases in my life where I was trying to fit in. In fact, I think most of my life I have tried to fit in. I have tried to be what others expect me to be. But the truth is so much more complex than that, because the truth is that we are each our own individual person, and our thoughts are so complex, and our feelings are so complex, and our experiences are so complex. So each person is going to have their own perception of you. They're going to have their own expectations of you. But the you that you are is so beyond how anyone else sees you, because nobody else is inside your head, and nobody else is feeling what you feel, and nobody else is experiencing things in the same way that you experience them. So let's not try to fit into somebody else's expectation of us anymore. Let's try to get to know who we are without that, without the expectation, without the anxiety of not fitting in, without the trends, getting to know ourselves without the trends. And I know that it's easier said than done. I still worry all the time about what people think about me. I've gotten way better at it, but I still worry about it. And I think it's human to want to fit in, to worry about what people think of you. But I also think that it's human to take time alone and to get to know yourself. And sometimes we push that aside. The me that I am now feels so much clearer and so much more authentic and so much more happy than the version of me that I was when I was trying to fit in to somebody else's expectation. And because I've had that experience of being so not authentically myself, and now just like loving and knowing myself so well, because I've had that experience and because I know the beauty of it, and because I feel the lightness of just being myself and of having the connection with myself and letting myself be how I want to be despite what other people think about it. Because I've had that experience and I know how amazing and incredible it is, I want that for you. That's why I'm saying this, because I want you to be able to feel this. And of course, like I said, nobody's feelings are the same, so you won't feel exactly this, but I want it for you. I want you to be able to have that journey. And so I hope that Wandering Wild can be maybe a sort of tool to get you a little bit closer to that. And I still have a long way to go, like I said. But I love myself in a way that I've never loved myself before. And I truly believe it's because I have taken the time to challenge myself and I have taken the time to get to know myself and actively and consciously build a relationship with myself. I didn't discover who I was by searching for something outwardly. I didn't discover my love for myself by doing research. I just came to an understanding of who I was. And I came to an understanding of who I want to be. So why, for so long, did I search for who I was in other people and search for who I was in external things? Why was I looking outward to understand myself inward? Some things don't need to be researched. They just come to be understood through experience. Which brings me to something else that I want to talk about today, and that is the human connection to nature. When I am away from nature, I feel crazy. Like, I actually feel crazy, and let me talk about what crazy feels like in my body. It feels stuck, it feels uncomfortable, it feels anxious and sad, and like my thoughts are moving 10,000 miles per second. It feels bad. I have a memory of being in Virginia. I lived in Virginia for a while, and I would go visit Virginia for a while, and I would stay in my ex's dorm room. And I didn't have a car, and there was nature accessible, but you had to drive there. And there was only one key for the room, so he would take it with him. And then sometimes it was cold, so it would there was going to be rain or something. So I would kind of just end up stuck in the dorm room for hours while he was in class. And then he would get home from class and he would be tired from sports practice, class, whatever, and he would just want to stay inside and chill. So I would end up being inside for a really long time and being away from nature for a really long time. And I bring this up only because I have this specific memory of me literally like rolling on the floor, like flopping down on the floor and being like, I can't do this. I've been inside for too long. And he's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I need to get out into nature. Like, we have to go to the river. I'm going crazy and just feeling like actually crazy. I think you could imagine like a dog. If you kept a Labrador in a tiny room for a whole day, it's going to have all of this built up energy. And by the time you get home and you see your dog, it's going to be hyper. It's going to be crazy because it has all this like built up energy. That's kind of how I feel when I'm away from nature for too long. I feel actually crazy. I felt the same way often when I've been in cities. That's why when I travel, I usually only end up in the city for maybe 2 nights. And then I am immediately in nature because I know myself and I know that if I'm away from nature for too long, I go crazy. I just can't handle it. And this has been something I've always been curious about. because I know that other people can relate to this feeling. Specifically, my little brother, I've talked to him about this a lot. And when we got our visas denied to go to Vietnam, we kind of got stuck in Manila for a little while. So we were in this big city and we both were like, we just need to go lay on some grass or like sit in a forest or something. It's this feeling of this is not good. I need to be in nature. So I've always been kind of curious about this. And this is another thing where I've always kind of wondered, like, why? Why do I feel that way? Why do I feel so bad when I'm out of nature? And it's one of those things, again, where I didn't do any sort of research on it, but I feel like I've kind of come to understand it through experience. The same way the sunset looks completely different every single night. One night it could be orange and yellow, and the other night it's pink and purple. The other night it's just blue. There's no color. And it changes every single night. But it happens every single night. And I've always thought that was amazing. And I'm sure there's some scientific reason as to why the sunset looks different every night. But to me, I'm like, I could do the research on this, or I could just say the world is magical and sunsets are beautiful and this is a miraculous miracle that happens every night, and I'm so grateful to witness it. I would rather think of it that way than get the science, so I just let it be magic. And this me needing to be in nature, I feel like, is another thing that I've just kind of come to understand through experience how important it is, rather than through research. So let's talk about what I have experienced and what I feel like I have discovered through these experiences. The other day, I was sitting in this very park. I'm sitting on the grass and I closed my eyes and I tried to meditate because I hadn't meditated in so long. So I close my eyes and I try to meditate and I cannot focus. My brain is just moving way too fast to focus. So I go on Spotify and I try and find a podcast. And there's a podcast that I actually really like that has guided meditations. It's called Purely Being, if you're interested in it. But I'm scrolling through trying to find one that feels like it resonates with me right now. And I can't decide. And I accidentally click on one that's for grounding. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want that right now, but I can't decide. So you know what? Maybe it's meant to be. I'll just let it play. So I start listening to this meditation. And it's all about grounding. And she's talking about visualizing roots coming off of you and into the earth, and feeling held by the earth and connected to the earth. And I'm sitting there and I'm doing these breathing exercises. And I had a thought arise. I am nature. I am part of nature. And I had this specific thought once I opened my eyes. And I was looking at the trees and I was looking at the ocean and the sea. And the specific thought that I had was, there's the earth, there's the sea, there's the tree, and there's me. Maybe that sounds cheesy to you, but that's literally what I thought in the moment. And I thought, I belong here. I belong on this earth. Why, as humans, do we feel like we are separate from nature? Like we're not wanted here by nature, but we are. We are nature. We're part of it, and we belong here. We all have a right to be on this earth. So often we separate the human world from the nature world. We talk about how we need to go out into nature, how we need to spend time in nature. And the nature is a separate thing from the human world. But if you think about it, it doesn't make sense because we are nature. We are animals. Maybe we have more intelligence than a lot of the other animals. But we are animals. We are in nature. Ever since I've had this thought, I feel so much better. And it's almost softened the pressure of things in my external human world. Because now I feel like I have this sense of, okay, I belong here. I'm meant to be here on this earth and I have every right to be here. And it's also kind of helped me feel like because I belong here, things will work out for me. Like I kind of talked about in the beginning of the episode, I've had a lot of moments lately of stress and where I kind of feel like things aren't working out exactly how I want them to. And people keep telling me, like, it'll come, money will come, the job will come. And I try to trust in that, but sometimes it feels scary and sometimes it feels really stressful. But now when I feel that stress and I feel that anxiety, I'm able to take a deep breath and to tell myself, you belong here. You're a part of it all. You'll figure it out and everything is going to work out. I feel like this can also change the way that we treat ourselves. Recently, I was reading a book. It's Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's a great book. And she was talking about this professor who, whenever she starts a course with her new students, before she says anything else, she asks the room to raise their hand if they love the earth. And everybody raises their hand. And then she asks them to keep their hand raised if they think that the earth loves them back. And everyone takes their hand down. I think as humans, we tend to believe that we are the creators of all evil in this world. The human culture and society and the thoughts and the capabilities that we have, it's so complex. So yes, humans have created a lot of damage to the earth. But we also have a lot of gifts to give back to the earth. One example she gave in this book is that the earth gives you the seed and the human gives you the garden. And so in that way, you kind of work together. But for me, this thought has kind of changed how I treat myself. Instead of treating myself like a burden, like I am a burden to this earth and I'm just trying to get by on this earth and survive on this earth, I kind of flipped a switch where I started to feel like instead of being a burden to the earth, I am part of the earth and I'm connected to the earth. I've been able to give myself more patience and to give myself more love and to look at myself more like the way you would look at a beautiful tree. And you would maybe look at a tree and you would just think, wow, that tree's so beautiful. And you would love the tree. And you would look at it with no judgment because the tree never did anything wrong. The tree's just doing its best. It's just surviving. And I've been able to kind of look at myself that way, to see that my soul is beautiful and to look at myself without judgment and to give myself space and peace and patience and to understand that I'm just doing the best that I can do. And that's all we can all do. Those are just a few of my thoughts that I've had throughout the week. And I think since then, too, I've made such more of a priority to be in nature. I am living in Sydney, so I'm in a big city. But I come to this park almost every day. And if I don't come to the park, I'm at the beach. Because I think it's really, really important to have these moments with yourself and with nature. For me to feel connected, I like to literally touch grass. I know it's a trend to go outside and touch grass right now. But literally to touch the grass, to swim in the ocean, to stare up at a tree, to be in places where I feel like totally immersed by nature. I also love to go out into nature and meditate. I love to feel the grass and to put my headphones in, maybe with some like HZ music or some nature sounds, or maybe I just sit and listen to the nature sounds around me and I close my eyes so I don't see the sidewalk or the wall or anything, and to just let myself feel totally connected to the earth. I also love to go for walks barefoot. That's another big one that helps me. But how do you do it? What do you do to feel connection to the earth? Let me know in the comments because I'm actually very curious. And I'm curious if you've ever felt this way, if you've ever felt this stir crazy feeling when you're away from nature, and if you've noticed the difference when you do get into nature. And one question I think that you can think on: what do you think that you already know or that you understand through experience, but you keep looking outward to try and get it? But maybe experience is one of the greatest forms of wisdom. Maybe your experience and your intuition is even a greater source of knowledge and of wisdom than ChatGPT, than Google, than TikTok. Is there anything that you've been looking for the answers for externally? Whether it's trying to get to know yourself, whether it's the next move that you should make. whether it's what to do with a tough friendship, anything. And you're asking people and you're looking for these answers externally. But maybe it's something that you will find internally if you just take a moment to listen to yourself. I'm going to encourage you to take a moment outside this week without your phone and to just sit quiet and to listen to yourself. Not to judge your own thoughts, but just to observe them and see what you find, see what you discover, and see what you come to understand. I'm going to leave you on that thought. If you liked that episode, you can really support me by following, leaving a review, engaging with the content, sharing. Right now, as I'm just starting out this podcast, and as I'm beginning to take it more seriously, these things make a world of difference. You might not think it's a big deal, but to me, it really is. Every time I see a new subscriber, every time I see a new review, even every time I see an Instagram follower, it makes me feel so happy because it means that the things that I want to share are reaching people. And I'm so happy that you listened to this episode. I hope that it can make some sort of difference in your day. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.